So we're just waiting like a few more seconds until we see that more people were able to log in, and then we'll start the webinar.
Yeah. And good afternoon to the ones already joined.
Thank you for being on time. It's vacation period, so maybe,
not everybody, not everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that we have a good number of people that found the start button. So welcome everybody. The webinar, the title of today's webinar is How to Transform Parts Management with AI. My name is Hilbrand Rustema. I'm the Managing Director of Noventum. And with me today is Paolo Bartolini. Pauli, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Hilbrand. Based in Florence, and I'm an advisor of Noventum. And just a few words about my background. I spent most of my career in General Electric in the oil and gas business, and specifically in the service organization with different responsibilities. I've been also a consultant for Bain and Company and other consulting firms. And in the last couple of years, I started to collaborate with Hilbrand and Noventum specifically on service consulting. I am also, let's say, the expert within Noventum on spare parts and pricing.
Thank you, Paolo. So when we were preparing the webinar, you said an interesting statement, and I'll put them up here. Parts management is the ideal area for AI-driven productivity and growth. Maybe you can start off explaining that statement a little bit, Paolo.
Yeah, sure. So there are three main reasons why parts management, I believe, is the perfect area, right, where we can drive productivity and growth with AI. So the first one is that typically parts is the engine of the service business in terms of growth and profitability. So every investment you do in the parts area typically has a very good ROI in terms of, let's say, time to get back from the investment and also returns. So this is the first one. The second one is that parts within the service business is also a very people-intensive kind of business with a lot of transactions, a lot of repetitive transactions that can be automated. So there is typically a lot of opportunities in this space to automate and get productivity in these activities. The third one is related to the data. So in the service business in general and in the parts management area, in services, there are a lot of data that you collect every day. So starting from the number of spare parts codes, but then you go into the number of quotes, the number of orders, the number of invoices. There are thousands and thousands of field service reports typically. So a lot of data that is huge value for the business, and normally is also very difficult to manage. So AI can for sure help in managing this enormous amount of data and trying to extract value from this data, which is really the gold mine of the service business. So say that, we believe that there are two main areas where we can work, and typically are opportunities for artificial intelligence. And so if we think about the productivity area, here are a few examples where we can drive productivity in the parts business. So starting from parts identification, going to automation of repetitive tasks, better forecasting, and real-time tracking. Just want to pick up one example, one real example that I also had the opportunity to test in my experience in oil and gas. So when we talk about automate repetitive tasks, where there are people in the organization, or at least in my organization at that time, that were dedicated to requesting quotation to suppliers. So they were doing every day the same activities, which was like having an extraction of the parts without a valid cost. They were going to understand what was the supplier of that spare parts, and they were preparing requests for quotation and sending these requests for quotation to suppliers. So every time, every day, this sequence of activities. So we had like 3 people doing this. Of course, it was a big organization, but so we understood that there was space for automation. So basically, we created a BOT, so a bot that was actually doing this sequence of activities, and of course, giving the right instructions. So we basically were able to have these 3 people redeployed to other activities, and all of this big amount of transaction was managed through BOTs. So this is real. I mean, I've been experienced in my work within oil and gas, and so this is just one example where AI can help and drive productivity. When I talk about growth, here there are 3 main areas that have been highlighted. One is related to pricing. Second one is about increased penetration on the installed base. Third one is related to understanding of customers' behavior based on data. So it's a lot of intelligence here that you can get from data again. So just picking one, talking about pricing, there are different ways to manage pricing for spare parts in different businesses. The most typical one is kind of cost plus approach. In reality, there are a lot of elements that are driving the right price, right? And so you need to understand if the part is produced by the company or it is bought from outside. If it is a commercial part or a capital spare parts, what is the lead time to get that parts available? So there are now algorithms that can manage all of these attributes of spare parts and trying to give to, of course, to the commercial team the right recommendation of spare parts, which is a value spare part pricing. It's not like a cost plus, but it is really differentiated considering all of these parts attributes. And of course, this is increasing the transparency and also the consistency of the price to the customer, and also driving more profitability wherever it is possible, right? Where we are talking about spare parts that are unique with very long lead time and very critical to the machine performance. So these 2 areas, of course, if you address all of these areas for opportunities, at the end of the day, there will be also an impact on the customer. So the customer experience will improve in terms of speed and quality of services, in terms of availability of spare parts. So there will be parts available wherever is needed, and you don't need to wait a lot of time to get the parts done and delivered. Better planning also of the maintenance activities within the parts the customer organization. And if you talk about customer behavior and customer segmentation, a more tailored offering and execution. So these, of course, can increase the possibility to sell more, and also to get the right level of execution considering the different customer characteristics.
Now, in the preparation this webinar, we spoke a little bit, Paulo, about that it's not just plug and play solutions, and you have to be careful where to start. Yeah?
Yes.
And there's a number of criteria to look at. So key success factors.
Yes.
That you see on this slide. Can you explain this a little bit? What's
yes.
behind?
Yes, as Ibran said, I mean, it's not that easy, right? Of course, to implement artificial intelligence, and there are typical challenges that you can see as key success factors. So first of all, looking at the top of the chart, and this is not only for artificial intelligence, but in general for every transformation, for every change, you need to have the top management committed on artificial intelligence. So there should be a big engagement of the top management and the key stakeholders in every area where you want to implement artificial intelligence. And of course, there should be a vision, right, on how to use artificial intelligence, what is the ultimate objective, and also what are the investment that the company is willing to make in this opportunity. Then, if you go into the middle part of the chart, we go into the real, concrete things, right? So it's very important when you apply artificial intelligence that you have good quality and good standardization of processes, and availability and quality of data. So we talked before about the big data. A lot of data are collected every day. I'm pretty sure that you see the challenge here, right? Not always the data are right. Not always there is a good process of keeping the data updated. And so, of course, if you apply artificial intelligence on data that are not high quality data, the result may be not high quality. So there will be more and more need of people checking what is the outcome of the artificial intelligence, and of course this is not good for productivity. So typically, when we invest on artificial intelligence, we need to do also an investment on improving the availability and the quality of data. And finally, at the bottom of the page, as soon as you have identified, the opportunities where you want to invest, it's very important that you understand the benefits, right, that potentially may come from the investment. So you need to build your business case. That is necessary also to get, the necessary approvals within the company to invest and to proceed with the project. Because of course, it's not only money, you need also to put resources to work on this project. And you need to work maybe with partners, external partners that can support. So this is all part of the business case, of course. And you need to build your plan, so your execution roadmap. Maybe you want to do more than one project, right? And then, of course, you need to understand how you can manage these projects in parallel, or maybe with a phased approach, considering, of course, all the challenges and constraints you may have in terms of resources and investment. And last but not least, communication is very important. It's important at the beginning to engage the organization on the vision, but it's also important during the execution of the projects, because people need to understand what's going on, what are the intermediate results that have been achieved, and they need to be part of the transformation, right? It's also because people may see this as a threat some way, and they need to understand better what are the opportunities, right? And maybe people can work more on more value-added activities, and maybe artificial intelligence can help on automating the more repetitive tasks.
Right. So I think we've been working in this area now for a while, Paolo, and so you just don't start anywhere. So we defined a bit of an approach, and yeah, maybe you can explain what is the recommended approach here.
Yeah, exactly. So this is in some way summarizing what is the recommended approach by Noventum, right? So what we typically do is that we start with a vision workshop. So we work with the customer. Typically, it's a small team, 10 to 15 people in of the organization. And it's very important that, first of all, we work together to define the artificial intelligence service strategy. So a broader concept compared to parts. It's something bigger, and of course the top management, as we said, need to be driving the strategy, and it's very important that we do this work at the beginning. Then, of course, we need to focus on spare parts, and we need to understand what are, first of all, the main challenges and the main opportunities that are visible in the company, and understand what are the typical artificial intelligence techniques that can be applied to address these challenges or to get these opportunities. And this is, if you want, very high level, but this is the main objective of the workshop, right? Because then we go into the real implementation strategy. So after the workshop, and of course here we can support with specific projects, but it's very important that the company, the customer, is understanding what are the benefits, measure the baseline, right? So where are we starting from in the specific area where we want to work, and understand the timing and the constraints in terms of resources and investment. So as we said before, in this phase, we basically create the business case, and we understand what are the opportunities that can give a better return, and where it makes sense to focus in the next maybe 1 year or two. And so you understand what are the priority one projects. You, of course, understand, and we identify together who are the key stakeholders and the project leaders, right? And the teams that are supposed to work on these projects, because again, this is not coming automatically, unfortunately. So it's, of course, artificial intelligence can automate a lot of things, but the projects need to be managed, right? So it's necessary that the company put together the right people to lead the project. And of course, we can support, or there can be external providers that can support in the effort. And finally, as we said before, the drafting of the implementation roadmap. So where all the projects are put on the timeline, and with the right targets in terms of timing, and also in terms of starting to get the results, right? Also the return on investment.
Right.
So, and yeah, the other point is that it may help to have a proof of concept or pilots to really understand, I mean, if we are going the right direction, and maybe pivoting and changing the approach if it makes sense, and then scaling up the initiative to the whole business.
Right. Okay, so I think that's a very good introduction on the topic. Now let me give everybody the opportunity to ask a question. If somebody wants to ask a question live, we can patch you in, switch on your microphone and your camera. There's not that many people, so we can have a lively discussion. I will start off with one question, Paulo. One of the, I think, things that we are seeing is that there's quite a few companies that are doing experiments. Yeah? And I think what we're seeing is that there's a very low percentage so far, and this is from the research that we've been doing as part of the Service Business Forum. It's a really low percentage of companies that actually move from the point, I said, the proof of concept to really being able to start scaling it up. Can you imagine, or from your experience, what are the biggest, let's say, challenges in scaling it up? Why are so few companies able to really scale up, even though in a proof of concept, an AI use case can be successful? Why are they not scaling it up?
Yeah, I think one of the typical challenges that I've been experienced in my experience with Geol and Gas and then Baker Hughes is related to data. So the quality of data is a typical challenge, right? And if you want to improve the quality of data, you need to make an investment. Investment means that you need to apply, techniques. There are many techniques applicable to data cleaning, but also sometimes you need to put people to recover information, right? That need to be integrated with the existing data set to have all the attributes and all the information that are necessary to really get the best from artificial intelligence. And in front of this work that may be seen as a huge work, and also, of course, you need people sometime or external providers that are needed to help. Sometimes, people are companies are discouraged and they're not scaling up. So because you can do a pilot and you can clean a small set of data, but of course, if you want to do that on the whole business, maybe you need to do a big investment here. And so this is a typical challenge. The other one, as we said, if you don't have the right commitment from the top, and it becomes, an exercise that is done at lower level, typically it doesn't fly.
Yeah,
it doesn't fly. Yeah.
Now we've seen a couple of clients sort of enthusiastically embark on this. How important do you think is the fact that companies already have quite a good level of standardization of processes, roles, and particularly for global service organizations? What has been your experience in that?
No, it's very important. As we said, it's the core, right, of the, if you want, the platform in terms of, in addition to the data, the fact that you have standard and very solid processes to manage operations for parts is a paramount, and also is it's very important also to get the right data. Because if you have a solid process with the right systems to support, and you have rigor in applying, the standard process, you typically have good quality of data. So the two things are very much connected one to the other.
Okay. Yeah. And what about the fear of many companies and I would say more also of employees that it will take away their jobs? What do you do as a manager to counter that fear?
Yeah, I think it's human. I mean, in general, there is a fear of any change, not only artificial intelligence, right? It's natural. It's coming from, I think, our history probably and our DNA. When we talk about artificial intelligence, and of course, we think about activities that can be done by a machine or a software, people may be scared. I think the right way to see this is that, you know, people typically have a lot of experience and expertise, right? And there are many areas in the business where this experience and expertise can be used to do things that are more complex, that are more difficult to automate, and are related to the knowledge of customers, the knowledge of how things are working since many years. And I think the right way to think about artificial intelligence is this one. So you drive productivity on automation, and you use the brain of people for more complex things. On the other side, there are areas where that are not managed today, right? If you talk about big data, today, typically we are not able to manage all of this data to extract, you know, the information and the value. So this is not an area that if you do artificial intelligence, you are replacing somebody because this is not done today at all. So it's just a good opportunity to extract value for the company and for the customers. So this is the way I see it, and I think most of the communication when you start the journey need to be also to cover this potential, you know, scare, right, for
Yeah.
people.
And what do you what's your experience in terms of let's say the knowledge that companies need about the spare parts business, like understanding what is best practice and industry standards. I think some of the experiences that we have seen is that some executives they put a lot of pressure on service leaders, and I don't want to say every day they're coming around to ask, hey, are you already doing something with AI? But there is somehow a bit of hype and belief in this magic of what it can do. But how important is that depth of understanding of the parts business of the real let's say, yeah, what is best practice? Let's say when you start with this, can you expect that there is some sort of AI solution vendor coming in and he just does magic, or how does that work?
No, I don't see. I don't see the magic around, right? It's need to be a collaboration every time, and the expertise and the knowledge of people in the company cannot be replaced in just with a software. So, and this is a very critical factor, right? You need to put together the expert of artificial intelligence that maybe, and of course are not the super expert of that business, of that spare parts processes and data, with the people that are working on these processes and on these data since many years, right? And they know also where are the areas where data quality is not good, and maybe can help in having specific actions to improve the average data quality, and without boiling the ocean, right? So it's very important that we have this kind of collaboration.
Right. So we have somebody that raised their hand, and I've opened the camera and the microphone. So Jean-Claude, hello, Jean-Claude. I hope you're good.
Hello, Brand. I'm good, thank you. So, Paulo.
Would you
Jean-Claude.
What question would you like to ask?
Yeah. First of all, a comment, and then where my thought related to AI. So first of all, thank you for having a session specific on spare parts and AI, because so far we're always talking about let's say, customer service or field service and AI. And probably in many companies, the spare parts data, even though it's not perfect, but it's the most structured. So it may be a good idea to start with spare parts and with a lot of potential. So so thank you for this, for giving this opportunity. Now, though, I'm not interested in the AI technology, to be very blunt. I'm interested in the result. What problem can it help me solve? Now, I've been looking in various options over the last few months, and there are a number of off-the-shelf solutions that look fantastic, but for which there is absolutely no business case. There is no way you can justify 200, 300, 400,000 euro investment for a benefit you can hardly justify. And as soon as you start talking about this amount of money, then you lose the commitment of top management, or there is high risk. Now, if you start first with internal use of AI, not customer facing, because that's another dimension, I start to think that maybe we should start with quick and dirty, homemade solution, where we start to learn that will help us structure better our data, see the first benefit, and then one day, maybe a couple of years, invest in a big solution. Because starting big, I'm mentioning money, but when you ask this solution provider to explain you how they're going to use your data, explanations are very, very blurred. It's really not clear. The promise is fantastic, but are they going to do that? Not unclear. So really, I'm thinking now, let's start with something cheap, homemade, with some maybe a consultant or student or whatever to start building something and then scale up, grow, and eventually invest in the large solution. So I wanted to have your feedback on this option.
Yeah, no, Jean-Claude, I think you are absolutely right. And this is also what we were trying to say before when we were talking about the proof of concept, maybe the pilot, and maybe, you know, the scale up to the whole organization of the initiative, right? And so it's clear that, you know, the investment is required, and companies need to make an effort in trying to understand what is the returns and the potential benefit. And having a pilot on a small scale can help a lot, right? To get engagement from the top management, and also to really test the capabilities, the internal capabilities to work maybe with an external provider on a specific area, right? So I absolutely agree with you that this is the right approach, and this is also what we recommend typically to our customers.
Okay, thank you, Paulo.
Maybe I want to add to that, and if anybody wants to join in the discussion, feel free. I just need to raise your hand on your experience on the topic. I think what we see in the application landscape and all the solutions that are being offered is that there are a number of platforms that already provide, let's say, very interesting functionality. Generic sort of AI platforms. I mean, there's many of them that with not too complicated use cases, you can do a lot. Yeah? And I think one of the interesting approaches that I think we have seen also is one you start with what Paulo mentioned in the approach is with a high level vision. Yeah? So you need to also typically get a little educated on what is already working out there, what not, what are the more complex use cases. But then you start to narrow down, and you don't need to evaluate everything to death. But it generally pays off before you start experimenting, because there's a lot of experimenting going on right now with lots of companies. And I think the latest research that we did as part of the Service Business Forum was that around 1 or 2% of companies are really able to scale up. So that's very low. Yeah, and if you go back and talk to those companies, you see that you typically need to do a little bit more homework and look at all these various aspects. Like, okay, so what is the business case in potential? Look at what is the quality of data that you have and the availability of it. Can you really scale? But then also design as a next step. Design using, let's say, best practice processes and carefully identifying almost at the task level, what is it that is suitable to standardize or what you have standardized, and what can be done by AI without too much risk, like in risk in terms of outcome, and start with those. And now with this whole agentic AI, it's a very sort of exciting approach, because if you then go across your processes and you identify which tasks are suitable for AI and which ones are more suitable for human interaction, so interpretation of, let's say, if there is ambiguity in decisions to be made, if it's not completely standard, or if you need human interactions with your customers. These are tasks that are more suitable for people. And so it's a bit of that strategy, that pre-work will be able to reduce the number of use cases. So far, I think we've counted more than 100 use cases in AI in the area of service. So to help you to reduce and focus on the right ones. Yeah, and then you have your proof of concept if you choose the right one. But always in the back of your mind already think about, okay, what's the most interesting use case to start with? And I think if you look at the few companies that show some good success, that's where I think we see the big difference. But thinking a little bit further than just starting, let's say. Yeah? But, okay, good. Well, thank you, Jean-Claude. Very good question, and thanks also for your experience and sharing what you found in the market. Just looking around, if people have any other question, then I don't want to be unpolite, Jean-Claude, but we'll switch off the camera again. And I just want to share then a last page with you, where you may then what you may expect after this webinar. So we will send you an email as a follow-up, and one of the things that you can do is you can download this webinar. You can also watch other webinars we did on other topics, and we are the organizer of the Service Business Forum, and there's lots of research presentations you can watch that may be of interest. You may share the webinar with others. If you want to discuss this more, we're happy to share a bit more experience. And you can also book a meeting with us, with Paulo and myself, or one of my colleagues, to talk about that approach, that workshop, that vision workshop, as a starting point. That is perhaps useful for anybody considering this, and also useful to get other stakeholders to join you. Yeah? Okay, so that was it for today. We keep it short and crisp. So thank you everybody for participating, and we hope that you liked it and you appreciate it. Let us know, and hope to talk to you maybe live to continue this discussion. Thanks a lot, Paulo, for the preparation and the nice discussions we had to prepare the webinar. And let's look to further discussions on the topic. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Brent, and thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.